So I definitely noticed through doing all of this that when you're using project-based learning, you get to kind of explore a lot of the cross-curricular competencies, which was really interesting. You take certain kind of more curricular aspects that you want to help students explore, but all of a sudden when you put it into this big project that involves so many different facets and so many different things that you need to consider, all of a sudden you find yourself weaving into different subject matter and different things kind of come up, and you kind of get to go on sort of more of a journey together, and you realize that you end up learning a lot more than what you had first intended, which was really neat.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. And I think like the technology aspect of it all really helped like motivate these students, because when we told them the topic, they were excited about the topic because it was something different from what they normally do in class. But then when they found out they were 3D printing with the topic, they were very, very excited to get to do that.
I guess kind of between theory and practice, this was something that maybe this is going to get a little bit meta here, I don't know, but because we ended up doing the focused practicum rather than kind of the theoretical approach to this course for ourselves. I know I've other friends in the course that decided to do the other approach by just doing everything theoretically, and that's what I have experienced a lot in the past in education courses. As you do a lot of things by theory, you kind of make up different scenarios in your head, and you kind of think about, well, maybe I have a student that's going to do this, or maybe one student's going to be more motivated this way, or whichever. But by doing this, you actually got to take something that you had learned in theory in the past and actually get to practice it, which was very interesting for me, because all of a sudden all of that just became much more real. And that's kind of what I noticed just through this experience myself. So I would imagine with the students it would be very similar too. They would all of a sudden feel like they kind of have grown-up responsibilities. They're all of a sudden, everything that they learned that they would get to do and learn one day, they all of a sudden are doing just a little piece of that, right now, which was kind of cool. I don't know, maybe that's kind of a confusing way to put it.
No, I agree that like between like normal ed classes where you're just planning it all in comparison to this where you're actually going out and experiencing it, now I feel like with the lesson plan we developed beforehand, I have all these changes that I would make if I was to do it in the future, and like that's something you don't get when you just do the theory aspect of it, because you've never actually seen how it affects the students and how the students interact with the lesson.
Yeah. Honestly, for me, I think the best aspect of this was that I got to learn how to 3D print, which was really neat. It was something that it was very, very daunting going into this, because I don't actually myself have a lot of experience with technology and various different things that can be used in the classroom, which is something that I've wanted for a long time to rectify and get more comfortable using these different things, and kind of encouraging students to explore avenues that maybe they hadn't considered before. So for me to be able to kind of put myself so far out of my comfort zone with something that I had such little experience with, and find that I myself could pick it up, which was really cool, that I didn't realize I could do it. I felt more confident going to the students and telling them, I know this is new to you, but if I can do it, you can do it. So that was pretty neat for me, for sure.
Yeah, I think for myself, the best aspect was getting to get back into the classroom, and so not just having a semester break away from like students. And so like now I feel like because I've had my PS3 and then this experience, I'm definitely prepared to go into the school, and like you learn so much more being with the students than you do just in a normal classroom setting.
Absolutely. I mean, okay, so probably the most challenging was probably learning how to 3D print. But that was something that I kind of was very nervous about, and then I kind of took it in stride and learned. I learned pretty quickly and caught on quite well, and I realized that there's a lot of resources out there that help not only students but also teachers with learning kind of these different forms of technology. So that was really interesting to me. Another challenge that I definitely know that we had was just not understanding the time that everything was going to take, particularly with working with such a new technology to us. We didn't really kind of we tried in the beginning to kind of plan out, you know, how long we would spend on each step, but because we had never really seen a project all the way through, and especially not with students, it was very difficult to figure out, you know, how long students were going to need to do something in Tinkercad, the program that we used, and how long it would take to actually 3D print afterwards, and would we be doing it at the school or at the university. So it was very challenging to plan timelines for projects that you really were so new to you, and there was a lot of variables to it. So that's probably the most challenging.
Yeah, the timeline was definitely a challenge for us, but we did end up completing the project in the timeline that we had planned, so that was good. But I think another challenge was just the fact that it's an hour twice a week. So by the time you get into the school and set up and got the kids ready and set up, lots of your time was just gone by trying to set up the activity. And so, like, for me, I think that was part of the challenge, was trying to get them organized and on task quickly so that the time didn't run out and that they actually got to accomplish what we wanted them to accomplish that day.
I can't speak for Lakeisha because I know she just did PS3 last semester, but it's been over a semester for me since I have been in the classroom. And the last time I was in a classroom, I was in a junior high setting. So I realized quickly how much I had let my classroom management slip in the time I had been away. So that was something that I had to definitely quickly catch up on. That was definitely needed, especially with something as a project as exciting as this that, you know, kind of got the kids. I mean, it's fantastic to get the kids thinking creatively and all of that, but all of that just creates a lot of excitement. And especially since they had to work collaboratively, it got dicey at times, so I definitely had to kind of remember back to different things for keeping kids on task and focused, which was definitely something that I probably struggled with the most. But yeah. Can't speak to Lakeisha because
oh no, I agree with you on that one, because going from high school and PS3 to back to grade 4 or 5 for this experience, classroom management was definitely something that was reinforced by this, and it was kind of a nice experience because of the small group. So it was like a good way to kind of get back into the classroom management that goes along with elementary students, and because it's so different than like the high school setting. And so it was nice just to have that small group that was easy to talk to and make those connections and relationships quickly so that the project could progress and we'd actually know the students.
Yeah, it was definitely, neat too because we only had kind of like an hour twice a week. So we really tried to do it very quickly because we had to spend so little time with them in each session, but you always had to kind of do the thing where we recall what we did last time and, you know, the different research that we had come up with to kind of keep it all fresh in their mind. But because we had to do that so often, because, I mean, if you think about it, we had to kind of do a little recap every single hour that we were ever with these kids because every session only lasted an hour. So there's a lot of things that got repeated a lot from the very beginning. But towards the end, I mean, they were on it. They know everything there is to know about all of the research that we did in the very beginning because it got brought up so many times. So that was kind of neat to see something like really stick and them to really connect with something like that.
Yeah, they're experts now on Mars, that's for sure.
So the only thing that I can think of is there was sometimes miscommunications about if there was going to be PD days or field trips or whichever. That just kind of happens. I feel like that probably happens in a regular school setting all the time. But just because we had such little time and we kind of really planned to like use up every minute, so we would having to go back and kind of restructure our timeline and say, okay, well, we have to lose a day here now, so we have to kind of amalgamate this stuff into other sessions. That kind of required a lot of different planning on the fly, which in hindsight was probably good because it gave us a lot of practice with doing that kind of thing, which I know must happen all the time in a teaching career. So it was actually good in some ways, and just a struggle in other ways, but I guess that's kind of what it is.
I think for me, like the one difference would maybe be to start like a week earlier. So like start the last week of January, and that way just in case something happened, like missing a couple days, you'd have that extra week in at the end of March to catch up if need be.
Yeah, probably.
We had that talk with Mike at the end of today, and he was just saying how like good this experience is for us and that we should be like recommending it to everyone, and I totally agree with that. Like I think that those who took the other pathway missed out on an experience that is so helpful and will be so helpful for the future.
Yeah, absolutely. And I know myself included, a lot of us were very nervous about being pushed so far outside of our comfort zone and dealing with technology and things that we hadn't dealt with before, but it was absolutely worth it in the end. And you kind of really start to understand that like how much resources there are out there to help you learn different things. And I mean, there's full-on lesson plans that you can find online that uses all kinds of different types of technology, and kind of your gut reaction when you come across these is, oh, well, I don't know how to do that, so I'm just gonna look at something else. But kind of this really helps you realize, like, no, you can. You can take a look at it further, and you can learn things on your own, and you can ask for guidance, and there's different places you can go to kind of explore different things. So it kind of definitely gives you the confidence to try something new, which is really cool and absolutely necessary for any new teacher, I think. So I would definitely recommend it.